All right, welcome back to part 3 of making an antique gumball machine in Blender. Now, last time, after we did some debugging issues, we successfully modeled the little drawer where the gumballs will come out, as well as the cavity for them to fall from. So in this video, we're going to do this faceplate mechanism. And again, we're going to continue with the theme of just kind of eyeballing things. Like I said, I don't have this image reference as a background image. So far, everything has just been done kind of by eyesight. And these machines are all kind of a little bit different, like I said, so your mileage may vary. But in this case, because I'm not actually measuring everything, I feel like it's just fun to eyeball. Take a little bit more of a relaxed approach to it. So next we're going to do this. And the way that I do this piece, especially the lock mechanism, or well, it looks like a lock, I guess, but it's actually the coin mechanism, might actually surprise you. So this will be a fun episode. All right, let's get to it. So when eyeballing it, the one thing that I'm seeing here is if you look at these kind of, edges that go up the side, I don't know what to call these. I called them pipes in the first video. They're not really. I don't know what the name for these little stripe things are. They're not stripes because they're actually shaped. They're not painted on. Whatever these things are. I noticed that this faceplate goes about one length of those over. So it goes from edge to edge of those details, those vertical lines. And then it overshoots about by that same width, right? That width from here to here, it also goes out to there. Maybe a little bit shorter. And then, of course, it goes all the way from the opening of our door to the top of the machine. So let's eyeball that and see if we can get that faceplate in there. I'm going to hit Shift-C to put my cursor back at the center of the screen. Shift-A to add an object. We'll add a cube. Grab Z to bring it up. Scale Z to, well, actually, two things. I'm going to go into my cursor scaling mode and go back to median point. And then I'm also going to go into edit mode and scale it in edit mode because as you may be aware from other YouTubers or just from having used Blender, if we scale the cube, its scale right here will be a different size, and then later on you have to select your cube and hit Control A and apply scale so it goes back to that. But if we just avoid doing that and go into edit mode when we do our scaling, it'll stay one the whole time. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to try to get this to go. There we go. So that looks, let's go into wireframe mode with X-ray on. I guess don't need wireframe in that case. One thing that's different about Blender is 2.8 is that this is wireframe mode. In Blender 2.7, you'd be able to see through the wireframe, but now wireframes are kind of solid, which is interesting. So you have to still put on X-ray mode. But so it goes from the top of the door, which looks good, but it goes a little bit too high, so I'm just going to select these top vertices and bring them down. Not everything has to be done with scaling. I'm going to select everything again, go back into solid mode, and now scale on X. And we said, okay, so if it goes right to the edge of those pipes, it should overshoot by just a little bit less than the same amount. So the distance from here to here, this is just a little bit less. And the faceplate goes to the top. So it's a little bit too deep, but its width and height look pretty good. So I'm going to just take face mode, take this first face, and I'm going to grab on Y and push it back to about there. It's okay that things are clipping through because we'll deal with that shortly. And then we'll take the back one and bring that, and we want to bring that right here to where the curve starts. Because if we look at the gumball machine, it's kind of hard to see. Maybe, can we get a better picture? Not really. But this will go all the way to the back. You can see right here, this goes up flat and then goes back to where the curve of the machine is. And then the machine will have to fill out this square area. So we want to do that. But before we do that, we're going to focus on this little lip part that comes out and covers the tray area. And for this, I think I'm actually going to use the mirror modifier And I'm also going to put the mirror modifier on the base now because we're going to be doing some heavy modifications to the base. So let's get those set up before we go any further. So we'll select our base, and I already put this middle line here. So that's ready for the mirror modifier. We just need to put one on the back side as well. So now I'm going to go into the top view, go into vertex mode, hit Alt-Z for X-ray, B for box select, and I'm going to select every vertex on the left side. I'm actually going to deselect everything and every vertex on the left side. Delete vertices, and now we have just half of the gumball machine. But I'm going to go to here and add a mirror modifier. I'm going to move it above the subdivision surface because we want it to be mirrored before it's subdivided. And you can see it's not mirroring correctly. We probably have a rotation on this. So let's apply our scale, apply our rotation. There we go. And apply a location. Why not? So now, if we hide this box, we can see, well, it's still not mirroring perfectly correctly. I must have deleted something that I shouldn't have. I want to go back and make sure I did this right. So let's, I see what happened here. Let's hide this cube because it's making things confusing. I added this vertical edge loop, and we added one here in the back, but I forgot to add one right here. Someone's messaging me. Sorry about that. I should have turned off messages, but forgot to. Anyways, so now we have actual edge loops, and we forgot to have one here before, so that when we mirrored it, there was nothing there for it to mirror. So let's go back to the top, go into X-ray mode, deselect everything, box select, select right down the middle, get everything on the left-hand side, delete those vertices, and now we have the correct model. So now we'll put on the mirror modifier, move it above the subdivision surface. We do want to turn on clipping. It should be on x-axis, but because we have the rotation, Control A, apply rotation, and now it's mirrored correctly. And it looks like this piece is not mirroring correctly, so there we go. Just grab it left and right. And you know what? This side is probably needs to go left a little bit. What about back here? Is this okay? So when you turn on the clipping, it'll snap it at the mirror axis. So the original model was a little bit too far to the left. It wasn't exactly center. So I just went in and fixed that. We can bring back our cube now. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put a line down the middle. I'm going to delete just the vertices on the left side. And then I'm going to put the mirror modifier on, turn on clipping, and then turn on subdivision surface with 2 levels. Select everything. Let's hide this for now. You can see it's faceted. We will make it shade smooth because we like working with smooth curves. All right, so what we want to do now is get this looking like a box again because, believe it or not, our faceplate is pretty boxy. I'm actually going to do a couple things here. I'm going to go into X-ray mode because we need to see it from all sides for right now. And I'm actually going to not make it so thick because we'll do that later. So I'm going to take these back ones, grab on Y, and bring them to about there. And then I'm going to insert some edge loops to make it boxy again. And then we'll deselect everything, take these ones, and extrude this out to the point where the curve is. And we will insert an edge loop here and here to get rid of that curve. We still want it to be slightly rounded, but not rounded like that was. And then we want to add an edge loop on this side to tighten up that corner. And again, we're still using subdivision surface, so I like the fact that it's rounded there. In real life, you know, these are kind of rounded corners. They're not perfectly boxy. And especially as time, you know, things wear out, they would get more and more rounded as time goes on. So I do want it to still have, a little bit of rounding there. But so that's what the subdivision surface does. But by adding these edge loops, we'll tighten up that rounding and make it look a little bit better. All right, and so now what we want to do is this thing kind of juts out, and you can see, it's like a shelf that comes out, and it doesn't go all the way to the edge. You can see that there's a little bit of flatness that goes down there. So what we want to do is put an edge loop to about, let's say, there, and then take this face, go into face mode, take that face, and extrude it out to about there. Of course, it looks horrible because we don't have enough edge loops, so we'll put one in there, and we'll bring this down to about there, and bring that to about there. And of course, we need an inner edge loop to bring that to about there. And now we have our little shelf. And don't worry about this because we're about to delete all of that. Right now, I'm just focused on thickness. So, whoops. Looking at this, like how thick this is, how thick this lip should be. I think we're a little bit too thin right now. Let's put this over here. Yeah, this looks a little bit too thin. This looks way too thin. And I assume that this should probably be the same thickness as that. So let's thicken this up. I'm going to go into X-ray into vertex mode. We'll start by thickening this one. And I'll also put an edge loop to kind of make that more square. Which actually, we probably don't want. That should be a little bit more curved, actually, now that I think about it. So let's dissolve that edge loop, actually. And it's still kind of too tight, so we can deal with that. We'll bring this down. And that looks a little bit better. We'll deal with that more later. Right now, I just want to focus on getting this the correct thickness, basically. Right, so let's X-ray, deselect everything, box select. Let's bring these forwards a little bit to create a little bit more thickness there. Bring these down. I want to go all the way, actually. And we should probably put an edge loop there as well. Probably, let's see how we look. Okay, I like that thickness. This could still probably go a little bit thicker, but I like our side thickness now. And this might be a little bit too much. I think it's a little bit thicker on the top, but this needs to go thicker still. The side is basically perfect now. So yeah, I think I accidentally brought this too far down. So deselect everything, box select, bring this up just a little bit. There we go. And then this should still go more. I keep using box zoom instead of box select. I have a lot of old Blender keyboard shortcut habits. I'm still getting used to 2.8, so I'm still hitting old keyboard shortcuts, but there we go. So that looks good. So this is a little bit thicker than the vertical side, and that's a little bit thicker, so that looks good. So now let's try to kill the stuff that's in our way because it's annoying, and that's what you do to things that are annoying. You kill them. Let's bring this down just a little bit. So that these edge loops kind of line up with that. And now I'm going to hide this, go into here, and we can start deleting stuff. So we'll start by deleting these. We don't need those anymore. And pretty much everything like above right here, I think we don't really need. So that would be including this one. Make sure we don't have any strays. Sometimes when you're selecting stuff, you'll select strays. We don't want these backside ones either. Delete vertices. All right, bring this back, and now we don't have that obnoxiously clipping through everything. So this shape has what looks like a little bit of a bump, and then a bump that matches these pillars. Maybe that's what I should call these, pillars. I don't know. And then a larger bump or curve that matches, not exactly, but the little drawer tray thing. So let's see if we can create that. And we're going to create that by putting in lots and lots of edge loops. In fact, I'm actually going to delete this one for now because we do want it to be curved a little bit. And let's figure out how we want to do this. I'm going to go to the side and make this a lot smaller for now. So let's bring that into about there. And so let's see, we said we want edge loops basically on both sides of this pillar. And let's just go to the top view and bring those back a bit. And let's bring this one way far back. And maybe even in on X a bit. Let's bring these ones in there. Bring that out. I'm going to put an edge loop in here. Bring this out. I'm going to put an edge loop in there. See how this looks. All right, that's actually pretty good. Actually, I like that a lot. I just kind of want to bring these ones out more to kind of follow the curve of the gumball machine. I actually did a pinball machine in Blender before. I guess I'm having flashbacks to that. So that's good. I like how this curve basically follows this red intersection with the gumball machine. Because that's what it's supposed to look like. We have that little bump here. I don't know if I want to put in a whole other edge loop just for this bump. It does look a little awkward. I guess what I should do is actually move... Why do I have... What's going on here? Why do I have this extra... How is this supposed to look? Hold on. Okay, I got super confused there. I was trying to figure out how I ended up with this geometry and why it looks like this. And what happened was I extruded it and I brought this piece down. It used to be up like that, and it was all extruded straight out of here. And so I was like, well, why does this edge loop stop and not go all the way around? And so I was confused. But that's what happened. I'm just going to try to rotate this like this and scale it on X a bit. And then, you know, it's not perfect, but I'll bring this one down to match. But that actually works really well for our needs. It kind of rounds off this edge. And before this lump was a little bit too pointy, that curve, but now it looks perfect. So that's actually... it was a weird decision I made to make it look like that curve, but it ended up looking all right. So grab Shift X. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so that it flows with the red curve a little bit better. And then I feel like this one should be a little bit more pronounced. So let's just... I'm actually going to put in an extra edge loop right here and then bring both of these out. And now that's perfect. You get a nice little lip. And the reason why I put that extra edge loop in there is if we delete it, you can see that the curve is a little bit different. And I actually want it to be a little bit more round like that. And that edge loop will actually help us out in the next part. Okay, so that looks really good. We're at 20 minutes. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this all. This is going to be a lot longer tutorial than I thought it was going to be. But what we want to do right now is make the red part of the base go all the way out to here so that it's flush. It looks like that. And that we need this crease that goes all the way up to the top. And that's before we can even start dealing with the details of this. So it looks like This episode, we will just tackle getting the plate in there, and then in the next episode, we'll actually do the hardware for the coin mechanism and the little crank and stuff. I was hoping this would be one episode, but it looks like it's not going to be. All right, so what we want to do is put an edge loop in here that basically comes right to where the edge of the face plate's going to be. Just like that. All right. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to temporarily hide this. And I don't really care. Actually, let's bring that back. So if we look at these faces, this is like the topmost face that we care about for this part. So I'm going to hide this, go into here, and just these other faces and these other edges I'm going to delete. So we don't really care about any of this stuff. Delete those faces. And then we also don't care about, let's see if I could select it. It's going to be hard to select. We don't care about these guys either. Delete those, because those are all going to be hidden. And now we'll just take these three faces, go to top view. I'm going to hit extrude, right click to cancel the movement. I'm going to grab on Y and just bring it way the hell out here. Then I'm going to scale on Y to 0 so that it's flat. Then we will go back, bring back our box, go back to here, and then just grab this until in X-ray mode it's kind of intersecting with our box. And we will just put an extra, I'm going to bring it pretty far forwards and just put an extra edge loop in there to tighten it up. So now we have this wall, and let's put an edge loop here to tighten it on that side. So now we have that crease that we wanted, and probably an edge loop. Well, actually, I was going to say an edge loop right here to flatten it, but then that will also make a tighter rim all the way along, which I don't want. But what we can actually do is just delete some faces we don't care about. So actually, we don't need this edge loop. I'm going to delete that one, dissolve it, because we can just delete these faces, and that will tighten it up. So delete faces, and I guess we can, we don't need these faces at all. Let me turn off subdivision surface, getting hard to see here. I feel like we still have a face here that we don't care about. There we go. Deleted all the shit that we don't need. Put subdivision surface back on. And I guess we will have this edge loop. What is going on here? I don't want that. Just to tighten that up a bit. Bring it back. Okay, there we go. So perfect. Now, we don't really care that there's no faces there because we can't see in there anyways. There's no need to really ever be able to see that. So that works well. The only other thing we'll do in this episode, we're almost at 30 minutes, so we'll do one more thing, and that'll wrap it up nicely. So I'm going to go into X-ray mode, and we basically want to kind of bring these around this curve. So I'm going to go into, well, I'm going to create a circle, 128 vertices, so it has a lot of resolution. And I'm going to scale this circle so it's roughly around the inner circle of the gumball machine. And this is just a reference circle. So now when we select our faceplate, what we can do is take these vertices, grab on Y, and I'm just going to make it so that the top vertice is on the line of the circle. So we're just using a circle as a reference. We'll do the same thing here, so that top vertice is on that line. Perfect. So now our coin mech perfectly joins with our gumball machine, and it's kind of clipping through here a little bit, and I'm just going to cheat by bringing that up just a tiny bit. And now it's okay. And nobody will ever notice that in your render, and in real life, you know, machines like this don't fit absolutely perfectly together. This clipping we'll fix later. There's another step coming up. And since we still have a little bit of time, there's a few more things we can do here. So we'll delete our reference circle. We don't need that anymore. This we'll call face plate. We'll give it a new material called face plate. We'll make it a slightly darker gray than normal. And then we'll also drag that down to viewport color. Of course, this will be much different later. Let's save our file, of course. That's always important. And for the next step, what we're going to do is basically make this shape for the coin and for the crank. And we're going to make it all out of this object. And you might wonder how we're going to do that. Well, we'll save that for the next video. But there's one thing we can do right now just for good housekeeping. So I'm going to select this object, deselect everything, select just our faceplate, and hit divide on the number pad. And when we do that, we get isolation mode, and that will allow us to just see this piece by itself. And for this piece, we actually don't need the back side of it at all, because you'll never actually see it, because it's going to be completely hidden by the gumball machine. And actually it occurs to me now that these red walls are probably too far in. Why is that the case? I guess do they taper? Is that why? Let's see. Well, let's go fix that first, if anything. Let's go down to here. Whoops. Let's look at the top view. Yes, okay, so that's part of our problem. Let's see if we can fix that real quick. We want, what's the best way to do this? Ooh, we're already at 30 minutes and I just realized a mistake. That's not good. Well, I guess we can just kind of manually adjust it. So let's go into solid mode with X-ray on. And let's just grab these until they're right there. Oops, I don't want these bottom ones to move. Move just this top one. And then we should just be able to put our cursor right here, go into cursor select mode, and then select these ones. And now we're going to scale on everything except for Y. So we'll go into cursor, scale, shift Y 0, put those in a line. Scale shift Y 0. And these ones can just slide over now. And I think that fixed it. Okay, good. I was a little bit scared there. Now it actually goes all the way to the edge of the metal plate. Maybe we went a little bit too far there, because now it looks like the bottom has a little bit more of a gap. So let's see if we can go fix that. I actually would prefer to fix it on the bottom because it'll look better. So these pieces, right. Okay, so it gets pretty narrow up there at the top. So we just want these ones to slide over I guess we'll start with these ones. Slide over to about there, and then we'll just do the same thing. So we'll put the cursor there. Scale Shift Y 0. And now it hugs correctly. Whew. All right, and that's right at the 30-minute mark. Oh, that was scary. I thought I was going to have to re-record this. Hopefully that makes sense what happened there. But basically, if we hide this, what happened is because this is tapered, when I inserted that edge loop, the edge loop was tapered. So if you look at it from the side view, you know, this actually is running diagonal this direction. And so even though it lined up with the coin door perfectly at this point, if you were to go straight up, it was tapered in. So when we bring this back, there was more of a gap up at the top than there was at the bottom. So I had to just basically move that to the left and fix that little glitch. But it looks okay now. All right. Well, what I was basically saying is we don't need the back side of this for the next part of what we're going to do. So I'm just going to delete some vertices real quick that won't affect anything. So I'm going to go get my circle select, and we don't care about any of these or these. Everything else we want to keep, but not these. We can also, yeah, we want to just delete those. So now we have a gap back here, which will make working with this easier for the next part we're going to do. But if we go back into you know, full solid view, even though we deleted those, we can't actually see that we did because we deleted them from the inside. If we look at the bottom, we can't see that we deleted them. So only the pieces on the outside are still visible. But between you and me, we know that there's actually this hole in the back because we don't need those. And that will save triangles and stuff like that as well. So yeah, so that'll be nice. Okay, 32 minutes, but we got there. This is a train wreck of a tutorial. I first had to debug the hole in the bottom, and then I made a mistake there. But it's my first tutorial series. Hopefully somebody finds it useful. In the next part, we are going to make this coin mechanism and crank handle and stuff like that. And stay tuned for that. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. Feel free to leave a comment, especially if this part was kind of confusing for you. I might even have to record a supplemental bit just to re-show that section, but we'll see what happens. So there we are. See you in part, what is this, part 2, part 3? See you in part 4.